Shalom. All praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem HaKodesh. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of GMS, who are the true leaders of Israel today. And salutations to all of the Akim who do this work in truth and sincerity, who risk their lives and their freedoms to do so, as well as the scattered Israelites who come looking like the heathen, but are not, by way of their forefathers' seeds, who are Israelite men. The true name of the Most High is Yahweh, and his son's name is Yahushai, and the Lord's holy chosen people are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, as well as the ones who suffer under the curses in the book of Deuteronomy. My name is Akalio, and this video is about the incoming economic crash. And that economic crash is by design by the wicked elite of Esau Edom, as we are in the midst of their New World Order agenda. And their main goal is to bring about the microchip, which is the mark of the beast. Now, the microchip itself is a digital device that makes digital payments. And with their fourth industrial revolution, which that's just another name for their NWO, it's all about moving towards a digital society. Everything is going digital, all right? They have the implementation of the digital IDs. They have the implementation of the central bank digital currencies, which is about moving towards a digital currency away from the current financial system, which is by way of the paper dollar, right? Why is that? Because the microchip is going to be the main mode of payment. Let's go to the prophecy in Revelation chapter 13 and verse 16. And he causeth all the wicked elite of Esau Edom, and Esau Edom are these so-called white people, and this is their kingdom, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond. So it's going to become mandatory worldwide. All right, it doesn't matter who you are, etc., to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. And the mark is the microchip, which is something physical. And that microchip is already out there, both in the hand and in the forehead. The forehead is referring to the brain microchip. The technology is out there and people are being implanted successfully with it. So now what we're waiting on is the systems to be put in place and for them to, push it, and make it mandatory. In other words, for the prophecy to be fulfilled. And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So unless you have the microchip, which is a mark of the beast, you will not be able to buy or sell. So seeing as that the microchip is going to be the main mode of payment and it's a digital device, and when you do research on it, right, people use it to make payments, they don't have any need for paper cash anymore, right, because everything is going digital. So the current economic system is not needed. They're doing away with the paper money and whatever else. And so the economic crash is on its way, and it's all by design, okay? The brother Arrows of Indignation 144 posted the year ahead 2026. Esau, talking about the so-called white man, knows his time is limited, therefore you should know what time it is, which means the time is that we're approaching the end, all right, of his kingdom, which means that our Lord Yahushai is on his way, all right, and that means that these prophecies are going to be coming to pass very soon, all right. Now, this image has been spoken about, and I did do a video regarding the image itself. But the point is this particular part in the image. Now, the world ahead 2026, actually in this video, because I'm not starting from the beginning, I'm starting from a certain point. Apparently, The Economist is owned by a specific set of the wicked elite of Esau Edom, and it is a magazine that is for them to communicate with one another, those within that circle, because apparently The Economist isn't even something that is read often or whatever else. It's not very popular. It's just really for this purpose to communicate with them. And what they do is called this revelation of the method The elites tell us through their books and publications, movies and news releases what they are doing. This is called the revelation of the method. So this is a part of Esau's witchcraft and sorcery on the left-hand side. And they've always been doing this. All right. It's just that, a part of their witchcraft and sorcery is that they also deceive you into believing that it's not real, but it's real, what they're showing you, what their intended plans are. And mostly we know what everything is that is going on because of the prophecies of Yahweh Shem Yeshai. And we're not ignorant to Satan's devices, as the scriptures say. So we can see right through it all. All right. Me and the other brothers, the prophets of Yahweh Shem Yeshai. Okay. And also the elect can see too. All right. Because they cannot deceive the elect. So going back to this image, it will show you right in the center of it what they're saying. The world ahead in 2026 is, you can see two swords, and they are on top of, what looks like a chart, an economic chart. And as you can see, the economic chart, it goes up, but it trends all the way downward, which speaks to incoming economic collapse. Now, let's take a listen.
United States. Now, when we go back to the cover of the magazine, it appears that there's a chart that seems to depict some set or sort of financial crash right under the crossed swords. Look at the crossed swords on your screen. Right under it, it looks as if there's a chart that is indicating some type of financial crash. Now, here's what's interesting about this, guys. I don't know if you've been keeping up with what's going on, and if you haven't, this is why we do these programs, to get you informed of the times and seasons in which we're in. There's a lot of red flags and indicators that are going off right now that are not good. For example, let me pull this article up. This is from the Daily Mail. A recession is already here for 23 states in the United States. Nearly half of all U.S. states are sliding into recession as the national economy tries desperately to stay afloat. That's the stark warning from Mark Zandi, who's a chief economist at Moody's Analytics, one of the world's most watched independent economic firms. His grim assessment comes after major corporations slashed more than 150,000 jobs last month. This is the biggest October total in more than 2 decades. Now, that's in light of, again, the three giants, Walmart, UPS, and Amazon, all slashed thousands of jobs during the Christmas season, which is unheard of. A sticky inflation, dwindling home construction, layoffs at factories, and flatlining wages also contributed to the bleak picture. This state-level picture mirrors the national trend. The U.S. economy is not in recession, but is struggling, quote, to avoid one. Zandi's team analyzed a raft of data, including household employment, industrial production, retail sales, and building permits, to sort all 50 states into 3 groups: recession or at risk, treading water, and expanding. The results were bleak. 23 states. Let's look at this chart here. Okay. So all of the red, everything that you see on this chart, and again, I apologize for this, guys, on Apple and Spotify. This is one of them occasions where it probably be good to come over here and watch the visual of this. But there's a map of the United States, and in the red, you can see that these are already in recession. And of course, my state is in there. The state of Georgia, you got Washington, you got Oregon, you got Montana, you got Wyoming, you got San Diego, South Dakota, you got Minnesota, you got Iowa, you got Kansas, you got Missouri, Arkansas,
All right,
Tennessee.
As you can see, what's happening in America, those various different states are in the red for a recession. And so also remember this, that America is a corporation that serves the wicked elite of Esau, Edom. So it operates as a business. Okay. Now, America's collapse, economic collapse, we know it's going to happen. The scriptures say in Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and verse 9 The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. All right, so things that have happened before happen again repeatedly, right? And so in ancient Egypt, there was a situation that occurred. But before I get that scripture, I want to go to Revelation 11 and verse 8. And it says, and their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, talking about Mystery Babylon the Great, which is America, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. So America is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt. It takes on to the same spirit as Sodom and Egypt. It also takes on to the same spirit as Babylon. It is also the rebirth of the Roman Empire. All right, so America is the mixture of all of these different types of places before, and it's all wicked and everything. All right, so it is likened onto Egypt, speaking about ancient Egypt. Okay, so then in ancient Egypt, there was a situation that occurred in Genesis chapter 47 and verse 15. And when money failed in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came unto Joseph and said, give us bread, for why should we die in thy presence, for the money faileth? So in ancient Egypt, the money failed. So in modern day Egypt, right, that place that is spiritually called Egypt, talking about America, all right, the money is going to fail there as well. All right, and so we know the prophecies, and we can connect things, and we can see the money is going to fail. The current economic system is going to fail. They're going to get rid of it. All right, the paper dollar and everything, because they want to move towards that cashless society, because they're moving towards launching that market chip, right? That's why, once again, they are implementing the central bank digital currencies, and why America signed the Genius Act into law to bring about that stable coin, which works as a 1-to-1 ratio to the US dollar, right? As a form of digital payment. This is where it's all heading towards, man. Okay, so other news regarding the imminent economic collapse.
What's the real difference?
All right, so I have here from Lena Petrova, who is an expert in finances and economics. America's credit downgrade triggers a financial earthquake. The collapse has started, and this collapse has been spoken about and has been sounding off for several years. When the pandemic in 2020 came about, as soon as it came about, and I literally witnessed it while watching, on YouTube, Bloomberg Live, they were promoting that they need to move towards a cashless society from then. All right, but they've been promoting that, how they've been wanting to go towards that for a hot minute, because this is their agenda, right? It's all about bringing about that market chip. So they don't have no need for no paper money, because the market chip is going to be the main form of payment, and it's a digital device used to make digital payments. So that's why the economic system is being digitalized.
That sounds very complicated, but affects every single person in the economy. America's latest credit downgrade. Now, I know that phrase alone sounds very boring. It probably makes some people's eyes glaze over. They think about credit downgrades, rating agencies, sovereign debt. It's just boring. But please stay with me, because once you understand what's actually going on, the picture becomes a lot clearer and honestly a lot more alarming. A credit rating is basically a report card for a borrower. When you and I apply for a mortgage or a car loan, the bank checks our credit score. Countries, of course, don't have personal credit scores. They have ratings that are issued by agencies like Moody's, S&P, Fitch, and more recently, Scope Ratings. A AAA rating is the gold standard. AA plus is still excellent, but every step down actually represents slightly more risk and slightly higher interest costs. And that matters a lot when the borrower is the United States government, the issuer of the world's most important asset, US Treasuries. So, what does a downgrade actually mean? It does not mean that the United States is suddenly on the verge of a default. It does not mean that. No one is worried that Treasury won't cut the check on the next interest payment. Instead, it is a signal, almost like an early warning alarm, telling investors that America's long-term fiscal path is starting to look quite unsustainable. And the numbers clearly back that up. According to the St. Louis Federal Reserve, in 2020, America paid about $514 billion in interest on its national debt. Well, fast forward that to the first quarter of 2025, and that number is now $1.1 trillion. That is nearly a 100% increase in just 5 years. When interest payments double, it is not because the country doubled its population or doubled its income. It is because it doubled its borrowing costs. The United States has faced recent credit downgrades from all three major agencies: Moody's in 2025, Fitch in 2023, and S&P back in 2011, due to rising national debt, growing deficits, and high interest costs, moving the United States from its top-tier AAA rating to lower tiers like AA+. So to make matters more serious, in October of 2025, Moody's didn't just downgrade the United States, it also knocked down ratings for major American banks like JP Morgan, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo. Why did it do that? Because banks hold mountains of US government debt. If treasuries become even slightly riskier, then the institutions built on top of them become riskier too. That raises banks' funding costs, it tightens capital requirements, and it also increases volatility. When the foundation shakes, everything on top of it shakes too. This is why it is unwise to dismiss the credit downgrades as unimportant. They are important, and they are very, very significant warning signs of what to expect in the future.
All right, so she's talking about that debt, right? And by the way, fair use. Everything is fair use. Let me get it from the scriptures, man, because the scriptures talk about it. In the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2 and verse 6. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, Woe to him that increaseth that which is not his, that which is not his. How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. All right, so we have to go into the Hebrew here to see what clay is talking about. H5671, and it says, weight of pledges, heavy debt, right? America is in, you can just take a look at the debt clock. Let me see, debt clock. Here it is. And the number keeps going up. And who does America owe this debt to? The banking elite, the wicked elite of Esau, Edom. So what she's saying is essentially the bubble is getting closer and closer to bursting towards that financial collapse.
To expect in the future. When a country's credit rating falls, investors want higher returns to compensate for additional risk, and that pushes up interest rates on newly issued government bonds. Higher treasury yields ripple outward. It means higher mortgage rates, higher car loan rates, higher credit card rates, and so on. Businesses face more expensive financing for expansions or hiring, and guess what? Eventually, consumers feel it in their monthly bills too. But here's the interesting thing. Even with these downgrades, global investors still treat US Treasuries as a unique asset. They're liquid, they're backed by the largest economy in the world, and they are denominated in the global reserve currency. regulations around the world treat treasuries as essentially risk-free, whether they're rated AAA or AA minus. So most big institutions won't dump their US bonds just because a rating changed. So that's the good news. However, recent auctions were less than stellar. They were less than impressive, as you may know, because geopolitical risks and the United States foreign policy also impact how U.S. treasuries are viewed and perceived on international markets. So with that being said, credit ratings do influence behavior. They act as signals. When a rating agency says we are concerned, investors pause, they reassess, maybe make adjustments around the edges. And when millions of investors
most people my age don't realize it. AI will create more millionaires in 5 years than the internet did in 20. It can already
around the edges, and when millions of investors do that simultaneously, markets react and volatility increases. Yields shift, sentiment turns cautious, which is precisely what we've been observing in recent years. Now, let's talk about the heart of the issue, America's debt problem. We're now past $38 trillion in national debt, and deficits are rising, not just during crisis, but during normal times too. Historically, the United States ran big deficits during events like World War II or the 2008 financial crisis. Then it shifted back into healthier territory when the emergency passed. Well, today, deficits are climbing even when unemployment is low and growth is quite steady. Scope Ratings projects U.S. debt to GDP ratio will reach 140% by 2030. That's well above most of America's economic peers, by the way. And the interest burden is becoming the biggest financial story nobody sees. In early 2025, interest payments accounted for 35% of all U.S. tax revenue. Think about that. More than a third of every tax dollar that is collected is now going just to maintain existing debt before paying for defense, for Medicare, for roads, schools, or anything else. If that trend continues, future Congress won't have the flexibility to solve problems. They will barely be able to keep the lights on effectively. The agencies aren't just looking at the numbers, they're also looking at Washington itself. Scope Ratings, for example, said it quite bluntly recently. Governance standards are weakening, policymaking is becoming less predictable, and Congress is struggling to address long-term challenges with seriousness. Political gridlock makes fiscal reform almost impossible. Tax cuts are extended without offsets, mandatory spending continues to rise, Social Security and Medicare remain politically untouchable despite massive unfunded liabilities, and each year it becomes harder to reverse course. This is why the United States keeps getting downgraded. Moody's in May, Scope in October, Fitch in 2023, S&P all the way back in 2011. It underscores that it's not just a sudden event, it is a slow motion warning that the world's most important borrower is stretching its credibility. But here's the part that hits closer to home. While the federal government can keep raising its debt ceiling over and over again, you and I can't. We can't do that. Households don't have the luxury of borrowing forever without consequences. And the economic forces at play, higher rates, higher costs, higher inflation, affect everyone. America's credit story isn't just about ratings, of course. It is about how much longer the world's largest economy can postpone hard decisions, and whether global markets will continue giving the United States the benefit of the doubt. Because as we know, there's going to be a point when the house of cards collapses. Thank you so much.
And that's what's up. All right, because that house of cards is about to collapse. All right. And, going back to that consequences thing, is because America's a corporation and the wicked elite of Esau Edom have been, using that corporation for their needs and whatever else. But it's coming to the point where they don't need America anymore. You see? And this is where it's heading towards. Now let's look at the comments. And if the federal government's debt isn't bad enough, the private debt held is even worse. Empires fall first, slow, and then suddenly, right? America's turning 250 years old next year, 2026. and the average lifespan of an empire is 250 years, we shall see what Yahweh Shemishai has in store. The dollar is toast. 40 trillion debt will be a watershed moment. Even Wall Street will be forced to acknowledge this incredible mess. No, what's going to happen is that the paper dollar and the money, you have some people that are talking about, oh, take your money out, take your money out. What's coming is that money is going to turn into toilet paper, and it's going to be used for fuel to make bonfires and stuff like that. Yeah, it's going to become completely useless. And in order to continue in the society, they're going to tell you that you're going to have to be microchipped in order to receive government services, medical services, financial services, any kind of services. This is where it's all heading towards. So what do they say here? America is a failed state. It's resorted to theft. Okay, whatever. So, some people can see what's up and others talk BS, but let's go to the final scripture. Oh, and by the way, with Lena's page, if you want to keep up to date on financial situations, she has been, from my observations, honest regarding what is going on. Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 1. Remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them, while the sun or the light or the moon or the stars be not darkened, nor the clouds return after the rain. In the day when the keepers of the house, the government, shall tremble. Why? Because it's gonna crash. It's gonna be an economic collapse, and there's going to be chaos to come from that. But it's all by design. And one of their mottos is order out of chaos, order ab chaos. Right? They create chaotic situations and then they offer a solution to them. And their solution is going to tell you to be microchipped. And the strong men shall bow themselves, the military, and the grandeurs cease, because they're few, talking about the work, and those that look out of the windows be darkened. Right? So people, with the economic collapse and everything and the other judgments, the prophecies of Yahweh Shemishai, the famine, the pestilence, the plagues, etc. at hand, people are going to be, destitute, desperate, and they're going to go crazy and buck wild. All right? But that economic collapse is coming, man. It's only a matter of time. The stage is being set. So, with that, all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Shemishai by Shema Kodesh. Shalom.